Welcome to KeepItReal Studios, the only channel on YouTube that keeps it real.
Throughout the long history of the UFC, we've seen iconic matchups, greedy moments, and things that are just outstanding to us fans. But one thing that's always left in the back of every UFC fan's mind would definitely have to be a knockout. Knockouts are truly a statement piece in the UFC company. Whether you're an undefeated fighter, whether you're an up-and-comer, a knockout will always silence the critics and always put you on the top of a pedestal. Knockouts usually shake the sport, whether it's a perfectly timed head kick or a one-punch knockout. A finish that can silence the entire arena is something truly captivating to the audience. In this video, I'm just going to be breaking down and looking over some of the most iconic UFC knockouts in history. By no means is this video based upon a ranking system or anything like that. I just kind of want to go over a recap and just a breakdown on what makes this knockouts truly special to begin with. So please just sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren, UFC 239. Some knockouts are brutal, some are unexpected, and there are knockouts that become legendary the moment they happen. At UFC 239, Masvidal delivered one of the most unforgettable finishes in MMA history. A knockout so fast, so violent, and so definitive that it instantly became the stuff of highlight reels forever. Ben Askren came into this fight as an undefeated wrestling phenom, a former ONE champion and Bellator champion, known for his relentless grappling and his ability to break opponents with his immense amount of pressure. From the moment the fight began, Masvidal already decided how it would end. As the referee signaled for the action, Masvidal sprinted across the octagon, launched himself into the air with a perfectly timed flying knee, and just in 5 seconds, before Ben Askren could even attempt the takedown, it was already over. Askren laying down motionless on the canvas while Masvidal stood over him. This knockout was truly iconic, unexpected. You could show this to anybody in the world, whether they're an MMA fan or not, and they would truly be in disbelief.
Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. At this point in time, Jose Aldo was the king and the only featherweight champion the UFC had ever known. A dominant force with a decade-long unbeaten streak. He had dismantled every single challenger in his path with his speed, power, and world-class Muay Thai. But standing across from him was a man who has spent months invading his mind, the notorious Conor McGregor. The brash, outspoken Irishman with the immense rise was fueled by precision, striking, unshakable confidence, and the gift of psychological warfare. The build-up to this fight was unlike anything the sport has ever seen before. McGregor taunted Jose Aldo relentlessly, calling his reign over, predicting an early knockout, and making the world believe that he would do the impossible. On the fateful night of December 12, 2015 at UFC 194, both Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo stepped into the octagon that night, preparing for a battle. When the fight began, Aldo quickly charged forward looking to make a statement, but in a cruel twist of fate, the very aggression that made him great became his downfall. McGregor, calmly under pressure, read the movement and fired a perfectly timed left hand. In an instant, Aldo crashed into the canvas and his legendary reign came to an end. As Conor McGregor stood over him, the world knew we just witnessed something truly spectacular. Leon Edwards vs. Kamaru Usman 2, UFC 278. Leon Edwards was a quiet and calculated welterweight contender. He was stepping into the cage for the second time up against the reigning and seamlessly undefeatable champion at the time, the Nigerian Nightmare, Kamaru Usman. Their first meeting happened years prior and ended with Usman's dominant wrestling background just proving to be too much for Leon Edwards at the time. Since then, Leon Edwards had been having a journey of his own, fighting contenders after contenders and sharpening his skill sets to overcome adversity to prove that he was the #1 contender. But throughout that time, Usman ascended into greatness, defending his championship multiple times, defeating the biggest names in the division, not once, but twice, just countlessly building his reputation, his aura, and just his legacy. At this point in time, everybody was saying that Usman was surpassing the great George St. Pierre. On the day of the fight at UFC 278, Leon Edwards did start off sharp. He was the first man to officially take down Usman, showing his skill set in the earlier rounds. But as round 2, 3, 4, and even parts of 5 came along, Usman just showed that he was dominant, showing that he was still one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Then going into the 5th round, Leon Edwards' head coach talked to him, gave him one of the most powerful speeches in all of MMA history. Then, towards the last minute of the 5th round, Leon Edwards truly pulled something out of the fire, showed everyone that the long road he took wasn't for waste, with perfectly setting up a head kick, taking down the Nigerian Nightmare's legacy with just one false swoop was something truly iconic and truly shocking to fans. At this point in time, no one could believe it. Seeing Usman go down like that didn't even look real, but Leon Rocky Edwards showed that there was no such thing as a pound for pound, and he was here to stay with headshot dead. Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway, UFC 308. At this point in time, Ilia Topuria was coming off an amazing knockout to the featherweight GOAT Alexander Volkanovski. Wow, Max Holloway just recently claimed the BMF title by defeating Justin Gaethje at UFC 300. This was arguably one of the most anticipated fights of the year. Ilia Topuria was undefeated and had this invisibility aura around him. He had supreme confidence and anything that he'd say would come to fruition. While Max Holloway was still at the peak of his career, still proving to be one of the best contenders in the featherweight division or in the UFC in general. This match was a highly anticipated matchup, basically a clash to define who was the best boxer in the UFC history. On the day of the fight, it absolutely lived up to the hype. Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway were giving it their all, going back and forth on each other, setting up nasty punches, amazing elbows. With Topuria's relentless pressure and Max's invulnerability, it was truly a spectacle to witness. But by the 3rd round, Topuria hits Max Holloway with something he's never been hit with before, then eventually got him down and knocked him out. This was truly a shocking moment for UFC history because Max Holloway has truly never been knocked down and knocked out. And to see Ilia Topuria do both simultaneously in one night truly showed he was a real deal in the featherweight division. Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 2, UFC 287. Every great fighter has a rival, someone who pushes them to their limits, someone who forces them to evolve, and someone who, at least for the time, holds the key to their downfall. For Adesanya, that rival was Alex Poetan Pereira, a man who had beaten him not once, not twice, but 3 times across 2 different sports. And after losing his middleweight title to Pereira at UFC 287, Adesanya found himself at a crossroads, a position he's never been before, hunted, doubted, and his back up against the wall. At UFC 287, the rematch was set. The build-up carried a weight from beyond championship gold. This was a legacy fight. Pereira entered the fight with supreme confidence fresh off his tremendous TKO over Adesanya just months prior. His power was undeniable, his striking was sharp, and his ability to break Adesanya had already been proven. When the fight began, the tension was immaculate. Pereira's methodical and composed applied pressure, chopping down Adesanya's legs, closing the distance, was impressive. As the 2nd round unfolded, it looked like history was about to repeat itself. Pereira had Adesanya up against the fence, unleashing heavy shots, seemingly moments away from another brutal finish. But this time, Adesanya refused to break, and before we knew it, Poetan was down, and Adesanya was reigning on top of him like it was nothing. This fight truly proved Adesanya's legacy. This was a shot at redemption. With his back up against the wall, Adesanya showed that he was truly one of the greatest middleweights of all time. Adesanya's knockout will forever be represented throughout history. Just to beat a man who has defeated you 3 times throughout various sports, a lot of people say you're down and out, but the way that Adesanya knocked him out and just showed the world that he was still one of the best elite strikers in the world, you gotta give it to him. One of the greatest middleweights of all time. Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje, UFC 300. At UFC 300, the octagon was set for a clash of 2 of the most relentless warriors the sport has ever seen. Max Holloway, a former featherweight champion, making a bold move and stepping up to the lightweight division to face the current reigning BMF champion at the time, Justin the Highlight Gaethje. Justin Gaethje was just coming off a fresh head kick knockout to Dustin the Diamond Poirier. a moment that proved that he was still one of the most dangerous strikers lightweight division. Justin Gaethje was truly the most violent fighter the sport has ever seen, and a lot of people thought this was going to be Max Holloway's burial. Even though Max Holloway was coming off impressive back-to-back wins in the featherweight division, a shadow that still haunted his legacy was Alexander Volkanovski. At the time, a fighter who had 3 wins over Max, a lot of people couldn't see Max Holloway defeating Volkanovski and yet alone Justin Gaethje. So a lot of people thought this was going to be Justin Gaethje's crowning moment and just a reenactment of what he did to Tony Ferguson. On the day of the fight at UFC 300, Max Holloway was truly locked in, from start to finish. From the end of the first round, Max Holloway landed a spinning back fist that shattered Justin Gaethje's nose and almost sent him flying across the octagon. This was truly a statement piece and really set up the rest of the fight. From round 2s, 3, 4, and 5, Max Holloway just truly implemented his pressure, did a good game plan up against Justin Gaethje, and was doing well. And in the final 10 seconds of the fight, Max Holloway decided to call Justin Gaethje the most powerful and violent brawler in all of UFC history to come into the middle of the octagon and dish it out.
Center of the octagon, pointed the floor, and said, let's throw down right here, and then sleeps Justin Gaethje with 1 punch.
This was a moment that shook up fans and had everyone truly surprised. Nobody really thought Max Holloway was going to defeat Justin Gaethje and yet alone knock him out. This was truly a moment that had all fans shook. Whether you were an MMA fan or not, you had to put some respect on Max Holloway's name. This knockout was truly one of those moments in MMA history that really just made you realize how special the sport is, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime moment that even I myself am grateful to have witnessed that day. Max Holloway and Gaethje truly put on a performance that night, and the knockout on the end was just something truly legendary for fans to witness for years to come. In overall honesty, I truly believe I haven't begun to even touch the surface on some of the most iconic knockouts in UFC history. While making this list, I was just trying to pick some knockouts based off just recent memory, based off just amazing fan reactions and what is truly loved by the MMA community. A lot of these knockouts on this list, they're truly iconic and will forever stand the test of time, both at the time it happened and even now to this date. All of these knockouts were truly iconic. And like I said earlier, this wasn't even a ranking-based kind of list because I truly believe each knockout was special and had their own elements that truly made fans love it when it happened. But this video overall was just me just kind of recapping some of the most iconic knockouts we've seen throughout history. But that's basically it for today's video. Please comment down below some of your most iconic knockouts or some of your favorite knockouts in the UFC history. Like I said earlier, I truly believe there's a lot more knockouts that I can talk about. So maybe if you'd like to see a part 2, comment down below and I'll create a part 2 to just talk about some other knockouts in the future. But that'll be it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to keep it real.